You're watching Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LeBear's Casino and Hotel in Baton Rouge and the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame Museum in Natchitoches. You can follow Sports Shorts Daily by going to our YouTube page, Sports Shorts, hosted by Ronnie Rance, and get our 15-minute weekday video.
Welcome, everybody, to this special Saturday morning edition. It's game day, LSU, Auburn. Ronnie Rance here on Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LeBear's Casino. Joining me from, you're not going to believe it, not Pineville, Louisiana, but Auburn, Alabama, where he's living these days. Lynn Rollins joins us, Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame announcer. How are you, sir? And what is that hat? Tell us about that hat.
Well, I wore this especially for you to honor your former career with the Padres in the minor leagues. And this is an original San Diego Padres wool Major League Baseball hat. Somehow it was handed down through the minor league system when I was working radio in Alexandria, Louisiana, which was a Padres affiliate. And, of course, they didn't move to Washington. So somehow I became owner of, let's see, Nate Colbert's pants, Wade Blasingame shirt, unknown owner of this cap, but it's a relic for sure.
From the first year that they were in existence.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Padres made the playoffs this year. They were
fail, as is everything else in my life right now.
Well, Lynn, before we get
an original San Diego Padres uniform, and I mean original, stockings, belt, jersey, pants, cap.
Is it the old? Is it like gold or brown? What are the pants?
It's brown and it is wool.
Whew. Imagine playing in the heat in the summer, like playing the Rangers wearing that stuff. All right, before we get started, here's a word from our sponsor, Jerry Lane. It is Halloween, and 13th Gate is one of the greatest haunted houses in the country. It's right located in Baton Rouge. Go check it out. Here's from Jerry Lane to tell you a little bit more about the 13th Gate.
Don't be scared. Find the vehicle that you've been looking for at Jerry Lane Chevrolet, proud sponsor of the 13th Gate Haunted House.
Are you a haunted house guy, Lynn?
Not really, no. I was more of a kind of, one of those hay wagon type people.
Oh, like the hayride. You like the hayride on Halloween.
Exactly. That's about the extent of my adventuresome.
Let's talk a little game day, LSU Auburn. First off, you're living now in Auburn, Alabama. You still will do LSU work for the, for Kevin Wagner and the LSU Network, for ESPN Plus, and obviously some other things that come down the pipe. You'll still be working in Louisiana a good bit. But why the decision at this point in your life to move to Auburn? What was the connection for the folks out there that are interested?
Well, family for sure. And over the last several years, we've become acquainted with this community, and it's a marvelous place to live. And so because family is here and at my time in life, it was beneficial to get a little bit of closeness. And it's been a good move. Obviously, you could almost be anywhere now and the conditions would be the same, but it's an invigorating town.
Well, I've always enjoyed going there. LSU and Auburn, this is going to be an interesting game. I mean, these are two teams that probably haven't played up to the potential that either fan base would have liked going into the season. Auburn does have a winning record and had some tremendous benefit of some calls that have gone their way. Where on the other side, LSU finally in their fourth game kind of put it together and looked like probably the LSU team that most people expected them to be, hanging 52 on South Carolina and winning by 28 points against the Gamecocks at home. But outside of that, it's been a disappointing year. Your reaction, first off, before we talk a little bit about Auburn, TJ Finley's play as a true freshman. I mean, not a redshirt freshman like Johnny Manziel was when he won the Heisman. A true freshman. Your reaction, and he will start on Saturday because Miles Brennan's hasn't even practiced this week, hasn't been healthy enough to even practice. So no decision there, no controversy yet. But do you believe TJ Finley should be the starting quarterback if Miles Brennan were healthy? What's your reaction?
Boy, that's a 50-50 call based on what we saw last week. I would say yes, you can hardly do better. And Ronnie, the thing that encouraged me from an LSU standpoint was they did not go into that game with a conservative game plan. They let him evolve, and I think used most of the playbook, certainly not all of it, but he responded. He was poised. He's not especially mobile, but has the ability to avoid pressure and has a super arm. And I thought made good decisions nearly every bit of the time. So I feel comfortable with the options right now based on what we've seen in one game.
Joe Burrow last year kind of ruined it for LSU fans when it comes to quarterback play because we saw the maestro, we saw the greatest to ever do it. No one's going to ever have a better season than Miles Brennan, whether they play at LSU or somewhere else. They might be able to possibly get close to it, maybe look something similar, but definitely can't outdo what Joe Burrow did. That said, we are less than a year removed from seeing that perfection. So therefore, everything else we see pales in the comparison, whether it's TJ Finley or Miles Brennan. I mean, Miles Brennan had 3 straight 300-yard-plus games. TJ Finley, 80% passing. And as good as they were, it's still not what we saw a year ago. And I think that's going to be the hangover effect that LSU fans and all are going to have to get over for the next few years because it's so fresh in our minds.
Well, you've got to forget the last year, no matter what. I mean, you played on 2 College World Series championship teams, and the following year at LSU, you weren't expecting to do that again. It had to be re-earned, and so you've got to flush it. And it's everything in the immediate. That's the way it works. And so is it unfair? Yeah, perhaps, but that's the way it is. You move on, fans pay their money again, and they expect to see the best effort. And so far, Finley has, in one game, very small sample size, has been superb.
You're living now in Auburn, Alabama, so obviously you hear some Auburn football talk. Gus Malzahn is a guy who it's what a roller coaster it is to be him and to be the coach at Auburn. It seems like one week they love him and throw bouquets, and he gets the contract extensions and the big money, and the others are every conversation is about what's his buyout and how do we get rid of this guy. Is that just the world we live in as far as coaches are concerned, or is that something that's just unique to Auburn and what's going on in his case in particular?
Well, I think he came in certainly with the deserved reputation as an offensive guru, one who was a cut above, one who was in that early mix on redeveloping college offenses, and it worked for a while. He is a run-oriented guy, and you can run out of the spread, and he would prefer to do that. They've not done that especially well in the early going this year, but with the emergence of the freshman Tank Bigsby, and this is a guy to watch. They're calling him the next Bo Jackson. He's not there yet, but he's a tremendous runner, very powerful, very big, great pass catcher. They'll use him out of the backfield, averaging 6 yards per carry, and he has really emerged. And they will go to him. LSU has got to stop him, and that's Gus Malzahn's very clearly stated option that he is going to be most of the attack, and they'll work from there.
Visiting with Lynn Rollins, who was inducted a couple of years ago into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, and I know you'd like to be doing a lot more announcing these days than what you are, which is a big fat zero at the moment as far as games and things you're able to do. You came down with COVID. You tested positive for COVID a couple of weeks ago. Have since tested negative a couple of times since. So did you have any symptoms? Do you think it just was a false positive? No, should I have gotten the release from you? Should I have gotten the medical release from you to put that out there publicly, Lynn?
No, the news is good, thank goodness. But obviously, all universities have had incidences and episodes that have caused alarm. LSU is no exception, and there have been some people on the staff and the broadcast crew that have showed symptoms, and tests were made available to us. And the first one I took was a rapid test, and it has a higher degree of inaccuracy. And thank goodness it turned out to be an inaccurate positive, according to subsequent gold standard tests. So statistically, I'm fine right now, after being exposed perhaps in the latest episode. Some folks are sick, and it's very, very unfortunate, but right now I'm fine. Thank you.
So the tests that you did where you were fine, are those the ones with they jam the swabs all the way up into your brain through your nose?
It's not that bad. It gets your attention,
Okay.
but it's certainly doable. And the athletes, for the most part, and those in contact with the football team and trainers and affiliate groups are doing it 3 times a week on average. So it's they're taking it very seriously and trying to ward off, or at least identify what may be a potential problem and draw the line in the sand right there as best you can.
We know that Trevor Lawrence is not going to play today. He did test positive for COVID. They announced it on Thursday. He has some mild symptoms, is what Dabo Swinney is describing it. So they're going to go with a 5-star freshman quarterback. Do you, in your personal opinion, and I know you're, up around that 70 age threshold, so where, you're a lot more concerned about COVID than, say, someone in their 30s would be. You're taking it more serious than someone in their 30s would because you're deemed in a higher risk level. Do you believe they should have played football this fall, or should they have sat out?
I think that's still an unknown, and people were pulled in a lot of directions in terms of motivation and perhaps an extra measure of caution that it turns out wasn't necessary. I still think it's an unknown, though, in terms of the very rare potential for long-lasting effects that would not be seen maybe in the course of the season. But if you ask me whether to go thumbs up or thumbs down overall, I would go thumbs up, maybe a shaky thumbs up. But, they're trying to make it work as best they can. And I think that the concern, really, the most serious concern is not over a 2 or 3 week illness period, but potentially long-lasting internal problems of which we're not yet aware.
If they had decided, Lynn, not to play football, it would have bankrupted the NCAA. Well, it would have bankrupted college sports. It still they still may bankrupt college sports. It still may get there. I mean, LSU talked about an $80 million deficit in revenue this year, and they've laid off some people, many of which you and I know just in the last few days. But if they had made the decision not to play, then I think they would have had to have fired. I mean, they would have had to have just laid off tons of people and said, athletics as we know it is going to change. Do you believe that athletics as we know it, as far as the college model, is going to change, regardless of what happens with the presidential election, regardless of what happens in the next couple of months, with the unknown and what we do know now, and with the unknown in the future? Do you see drastic changes coming down in college athletics?
That's a hard question to answer from a long-term standpoint, but I'm very convinced that in the television production area, and perhaps to an extent radio, things will be permanently changed. And some of it is technical. Some of it is the places from which games are broadcast. As everybody knows, many announcers, many are doing it out of their homes with portable studios. Is it as good? Perhaps not, but is it workable under the circumstances? It certainly is. So yeah, I think there'll be some delivery issues, and I don't think anybody knows yet just how much efficacy the virus vaccine, when it gets here, if it gets here, is going to have. So I think those questions are remaining to be answered. But yeah, it's going to have some change, and I think it's focusing people on budget items that they've never really had to consider before.
I do think, Lynn, that we're going to have some major overhaul changes. It'll start with the lower schools and work its way up, because they obviously will be affected initially drastically the greatest. But even big schools like the SEC they're losing so much money that I think what you're going to see is LSU's already implemented cuts to coaches' pay. They've implemented bonus structure pay. They've cuts. They're hiring freezes. If you lose that videographer in your department, probably not going to get them back. You're going to see shrinkage of staffs. You may even see some minor sports or some, especially on the guys' side. They're not going to touch the female sports as much because they don't want to get in Title IX jeopardy. But they'll be cutting a lot. I think swimming and diving and golf and even baseball in the North. I mean, a lot of these non-football if you're a non-football or basketball sport, you're probably nervous right now.
Well, I agree with you. I think we're going to have to go back. Maybe there's been a profligate increase in expenses and luxuries and analysts and people that 10 years ago would never have been considered to be part of an athletic department. I mean, when you look at the personnel numbers, they've grown tremendously, and so it worked 10 years ago. I mean, everybody wants progress, but you may not be driving an electric Hummer these days. You may be going back to a Volkswagen, but it'll still get you there. But the point is, I agree with you. There will be much more serious consideration about being economical and getting by with a little less from what we've been used to the last 2 or 3 years, for sure.
The Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, which of course you see the sign right behind me. We're in the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame studios. You are the host of the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame ceremonies, as well as being an inductee a couple of years ago yourself. This year we postponed the events from for the end of June to the middle of December. You are a Northwestern State alum. The Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame's never had the Hall of Fame induction ceremony in the middle of the Christmas festival, which is what we're going to have this year. The city is all lit up and beautiful. Not more have as many people probably able to attend as far as with the restrictions with COVID, and we'll, obviously things can change between now and then. Might have a little bit smaller crowd, but still going to be a tremendous event. And of course, folks can find out ways they can participate through lasportshall.com. But having the Hall of Fame in Natchitoches during Christmas Festival, your reaction to that?
Well, it's going to be sparkling. Let's put it like that. And all of the accoutrements, all of the glamour, all of the event things that we've come to appreciate and that has impressed people around the country as they come and participate in this will be the same. It'll be certainly to a lesser extent in terms of the total audience, and that's understandable. CST will broadcast the induction ceremony again. So although it will be pared down in terms of actual number of people in the building, the extravagance and the glamour will be exactly the same, if not more. And I think everybody will deeply appreciate it, even though by regulation now the audience is not allowed to be 600, 700, 800 as it's been in the past.
We're just going to have to make sure, at the Apollo, when they have a guy that isn't a good singer, they bring out the Sandman and he's got the big hook and they hook people off the stage. We've got to make sure we got one of those for our friend Tim Brando. He may go over the time allotted time limit. I'm pretty sure.
Well, there's a good possibility that could exist. So yeah, we'll have buzzers, we'll have whistles, we'll have sirens. None of which is going to make much difference. But we'll do our best.
Yeah, you're right.
By the way,
it'll have to be.
Let me just point out, if you're coming to the game or watching it, weather should be beautiful today. In the 60s, just ideal.
Finally, talk about the game. LSU, obviously favored against Auburn with a true freshman quarterback making his first start on the road, albeit it won't be in front of 80,000, 90,000 like normal.
No, it won't. And I was really impressed with the composure last week, the accuracy. It didn't seem like the event was bigger than his capacity to handle it. Bo Nix, the sophomore quarterback for Auburn, is an enigma. He's a tremendous competitor, not a great passer, not a great scrambler, but really a tough-nosed kid. He's got the ability to make mistakes. He's also got the ability to surprise you with a great play here and there. One of the things that I found interesting, Ronnie, was Auburn is converting 47% of its third downs, which is really, really good, but they're allowing 57%. So that could be a factor. You know, how long LSU is able to keep the offense and the freshman quarterback on the field in those third down opportunities. I think that, and of course turnovers, and I'm not unveiling any cosmic secret here, but if you hold on to the ball, you're going to have a much better chance.
Well, I do, for some reason, even though LSU has had two catastrophic losses to Mississippi State and Missouri, and Mississippi State hasn't done anything against anybody since. It just feels like there's a new sheriff in town, and that last week the mojo swung big time in the right direction. So I think I'm buying LSU slightly to beat an Auburn team. I think Auburn's due a loss. They've had too much good luck go their way recently. Lynn, thanks so much for the time. Best of luck to you, Miss Debbie, in Auburn. Stay safe. Hope to get to see you soon now that you're COVID free. And go Tigers. May the Baton Rouge ones win today.
Well, let's clear it up. I've always been COVID free. It's just been verified, and certainly I'm so grateful to the medical people who have shown great concern, genuine concern, and made these tests available. And it's vigilance is the word, though, from here until we get this cleaned up.
With the lack of work for Lynn this year, if anybody's interested in purchasing any San Diego Padre year one garb, hit Lynn up, Lynn Rollins at yahoo.com. Any price would be a good price.
Or send canned goods, anything but beets.
You'll even take spam, huh?
Oh, indeed. Indeed.
All right, Lynn, have a good day. Thank you.
Good to talk to you.
You too, Lynn.
Thanks for watching Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LeBear's Casino and Hotel in Baton Rouge and the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame Museum in Natchitoches. Don't forget to follow Sports Shorts on Facebook, Twitter at sports_shorts, and check us out on Saturday mornings from 10 to noon at Sports Shorts Radio on 104.5, 104.9 ESPN Radio in Baton Rouge.